Hello, this is Mr. Brown. This podcast today is mainly for the CNT120 and 125 students on how to change our network settings on our student machines, in this case on Windows. This is our Windows 7 machine that is basically your student lab machine and lab that you use every day. So we're going to quick walk through how do I go and look at my network settings as well as change my network settings. Now I've captured most of the screen here, so I'm going to try to make sure things are in the middle that we can see them. First thing we want to do is go find our network setting changes, and again on Windows there's multiple ways to do this, so I'm just going to use some common ways that people do. One of the ways I'll do it is I will right click on my network here, the network icon on the desktop, drop down to properties, and that brings up my network information setup and connections page, if you will. And over here on the right I can see I should see in the middle I see my different connections that I have. On the right side I see an option for local area connections. So I'll click that one and that brings up my connection status. This window's kind of handy. In this case it shows me a little bit about my connection, that the media is connected and it's enabled, the bandwidth of the connection 100 meg in this connection, in this case, activity of it, packets moving in and out of my NIC. Good. I'm now going to click the Properties button. This will bring up a window that allows me to see the client services and protocols installed on my system. As I look down through the client for Microsoft Networks, that allows my machine to talk to a Microsoft network and eventually a Microsoft server. Here's my services installed, file and printer sharing for Microsoft Networks, and then down here at the bottom I have my protocols installed. Since we want to edit the TCP/IP settings, I'll highlight that and click Properties or double click it, and that'll bring up the window where I can change my IP address. Right now it's set for obtain an IP address automatically. We want to click the option below that so we can specify an IP address. Again, this is something we'll commonly do in labs, so I want to be able to plug in a static IP that we're going to use connecting up routers and switches, that sort of thing. So 192.168.10.25. I'll put my subnet mask in, 255.255.255.0, and the bottom line default gateway, we're going to leave that blank today. We don't need that for our example today. That would typically be the address of a router or gateway that I'm connected to that can get me out to the internet, so to speak. So we're going to say OK to that. We're going to say close to the window below that. We'll say close the window below that. And this should be applying my setting change. I'll even close this window here. This should be applying my setting change, but I want to verify. So I'm going to open up the command prompt. There's a link on the desktop down here, command prompt. I'm going to open that, and I'm going to verify my setting change occurred by using the ipconfig command. And when I do that, I'm looking for, up top here, under Ethernet adapter, I'm looking for my 192.168.10.25, and indeed it's there. Don't let what's below you confuse you. You'll see some options for VM network. Well, these are the virtual machine network adapter settings, because we have a VM on here running. There are some other settings in here. We're looking for just the Ethernet adapter local area connection. So now I have my static IP address set. In my network, I'd be able to ping my neighbors, ping my router, that sort of thing. Well, let's go back and set it back to dynamic and verify. So last time I right-clicked on network and did properties. Some people often like to go to the control panel, so you could go to the control panel and do that. Some people like to use the button down in the bottom right that shows a little monitor down here on the bottom right. It's right off the screen for you guys. When I click that, it brings up Network and Sharing Center and gets me right back to there. So there's a couple options. Control panel, right click on network, use the little monitor icon down on the bottom tray, if you will. Any one of those will get you there. But let's get back to our local area connection, go back to the properties, highlight TCP/IP, click properties, and we're going to do obtain an IP address automatically. So in other words, get your IP address from a DHCP server. So we'll say OK, we'll say close, we'll say close. We'll give it a second to go get its IP address from the server. And again, I like to verify. So I open up my command prompt, again do an ipconfig, and I should see from the college a 172 address. From the hacked DHCP server, I should be seeing a 172.23 address. So there, real quickly, how to do your network setting changes for your Windows machine.